Happy Monday, cohort 61. I hope you all have had a good weekend to rest. Just a reminder, for school now, for distance learning, you need to complete your assignments in order to earn credit. Last week, a lot of people didn't complete every assignment. Only about half of the class completed their essay. If you don't do your work, you will not earn credit. And if you don't earn credit for your assignments, you will fail quarter 4 for that class. So just because you don't like the assignment doesn't mean you can't do it. For this week, we're going to be kind of shifting gears in English and going back to fictional texts with characters and plot and setting and made up stories. This week's assignment is going to be all about text-dependent questions. You're going to have 5 text-dependent questions to answer at the end of the week. To earn credit for this week, you need to answer those 5 questions. If you come to our Zoom class on Thursday, I'll be able to help you with that. In order to get started, we need to just kind of refresh our memories about how to read a fictional text and how to think deeply about the characters. As you're reading a fictional text, the characters do things and say things and think things that allow you as the reader to get a deeper understanding about them, to see what their character traits are. Remember, character traits are not physical descriptions of the character, but more personality descriptions, who that character is as a person. So that's what we're going to be thinking about a lot this week. How would we describe our 2 characters? I'll introduce them in a second. What I want us to do this week is expect our characters to be complicated and show more than one trait. Your characters that we encounter this week are complicated. There are many different sides to their personality. You may think at first that they are bitter, but then you'll realize actually they're kind of clever and they are determined. For our characters, one of them you may think that he is mean or rude, but then you'll realize, wait, there's actually another side to him. So that's what we're going to do this week. We're going to explore our characters through the text Thank You, Ma'am by Langston Hughes. Now, Langston Hughes is a very famous American poet. He was alive from 1902 to 1967, and he was a poet, an activist, a writer. He wrote novels and plays, and he was the leader of something called the Harlem Renaissance, which was this huge movement, an explosion, basically, of African American artists in Harlem, New York, in the 1920s and 1930s. Langston Hughes was really one of the leaders of that. He wrote so many famous stories, and all of his stories and plays and poems that he wrote speak a lot about African American culture and society, particularly in Harlem during that time. During this time, the 1920s and the 1930s, racism and segregation were a huge part of society. So you'll see that in a lot of his writing. Now, what we're going to do for this week's assignment is you're going to read the short story, Thank You, Ma'am. It's about a boy who runs into an older woman on her way home and tries to steal her purse. And he says he wants to steal her purse in order to buy a pair of shoes. But I want you, as you're reading, to notice about this boy, Roger. You're going to start reading and think of him as one way. You're going to define his character traits one way because you're going to think he's a boy trying to steal a pair of shoes. But as you read, your opinion of Roger should change. So what you're going to do this week is we're going to read the short story, Thank You, Ma'am. And then we're going to answer 2 different question sets. Earlier this week on Monday and Tuesday, we will answer guiding questions. These are more basic comprehension questions to make sure that you understand what actually happened in the story. To answer those, you will go to our class page and you will go to the box on the right here. Thank you, ma'am, guiding questions. The 5 guiding questions are right here. You need to answer them in complete sentences. You'll click here, discuss, thank you, ma'am, guiding questions. Click new post and write your answers right here. If you need to see the questions, they're right here. Please put your number for the question and please answer them in complete sentences. Later on this week, on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, we're going to answer more deeper level text-dependent questions. These text-dependent questions are going to be mostly multiple choice, but with one open response. But they're going to be a little bit harder because you're going to really need to go back to the text to not only see what the text actually says, but you're going to need to make some inferences and think deeper about the characters in the text. I'll show you on Wednesday where and how to answer those questions. I haven't posted them yet. As you're reading this Thank You, Ma'am, the first time, as you're going to be thinking about character traits, you may be coming up blank with the character traits. So what you can do is click this link right here, Character Traits Categories, to download a PDF. That first page of the PDF has a ton of different words, adjectives, descriptive words that you could use to describe Roger's character traits. And the older woman, her name is Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones. You can use these adjectives to describe her character traits as well. Ignore the rest of this document, it's just blank pages. You can leave those alone. So your assignment for Monday and Tuesday this week is to read this passage. Thank you, ma'am. Down here, these are the text-dependent questions we're doing later this week, so you can ignore them for now. Read the passage. Think about the character traits of Roger and Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones, and then answer the guiding questions right here. If you want to read the passage all on your own without me reading it aloud to you, that's totally fine. You can download the PDF copy right here. If you want to have the text read aloud to you, since I know so many of you benefit from that, keep on listening to this video and I'm going to read the text aloud. After I'm done reading it aloud, stop the video and go answer the questions. You'll probably need to go back to the text so you can download the PDF. That's fine. Thank You, Ma'am, by Langston Hughes, 1958. Langston Hughes, 1902 to 1967, was an American poet, social activist, novelist, and playwright. Hughes is considered one of the leaders of the Harlem Renaissance, which was the cultural, social, and artistic movement of Black artists that took place in Harlem from about 1918 until the mid-1930s. In this short story, a boy tries to steal a woman's purse to buy himself a pair of shoes. As you read, take notes on Roger's character traits throughout the story. She was a large woman with a large purse that had everything in it but hammer and nails. It had a long strap, and she carried it slung across her shoulder. It was about 11 o'clock at night, and she was walking alone, when a boy ran up behind her and tried to snatch her purse. The strap broke with the single tug the boy gave it from behind. But the boy's weight and the weight of the purse combined caused him to lose his balance, So instead of taking a full blast as he had hoped, the boy fell on his back on the sidewalk, and his legs flew up. The large woman simply turned around and kicked him right square in his blue-jeaned sitter. Then she reached down, picked the boy up from his shirt front, and shook him until his teeth rattled. After that, the woman said, "Pick up my pocketbook, boy, and give it here." She still held him, but she bent down enough to permit him to stoop and pick up her purse. Then she said, "Now ain't you ashamed of yourself?" Firmly gripped by his shirt front, the boy said, "Yes'm." The woman said, What did you want to do it for?" The boy said, "I didn't aim to." She said, "You a lie." By that time 2 or 3 people passed, stopped, turned to look, and some stood watching. "If I turn you loose, will you run?" asked the woman. "Yes'm," said the boy. "Then I won't turn you loose," said the woman. She did not release him. "I'm very sorry, lady. I'm sorry," whispered the boy. "Uh-huh. And your face is dirty. I got a great mind to wash your face for you. Ain't you got nobody home to tell you to wash your face?" Now you'll notice here next to the mind there's a little 2. It's a footnote that tells you at the bottom of the page. Here's a definition. So that phrase, "I got a great mind," means to feel tempted or likely to do something. Like, I should wash your face for you. Ain't you got nobody home to tell you to wash your face? No, said the boy. Then it will get washed this evening, said the large woman, starting up the street, dragging the frightened boy behind her. He looked as if he were 14 or 15, frail and willow wild, in tennis shoes and blue jeans. Frail means weak or fragile, so he's very skinny. The woman said, "You ought to be my son. I would teach you right from wrong. Least I can do right now is to wash your face. Are you hungry?" "No," said the being dragged boy. "I just want you to turn me loose." "Was I bothering you when I turned that corner?" said the woman. "No." "But you put yourself in contact with me," said the woman. "If you think that contact is not going to last a while, you got another thought coming. When I get through with you, sir, you are going to remember Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones." Sweat popped out on the boy's face as he began to struggle. Mrs. Jones stopped, jerked him around in front of her, put a half Nelson around his neck, and continued to drag him up the street. A half Nelson, according to the footnote, is a wrestling hold in which a wrestler puts their arms under the opponent's arms and locks their hands behind their opponent's head. When she got to her door, she dragged the boy inside, down a hall, and into a large kitchenette furnished room at the rear of the house. She switched on the light and left the door open. The boy could hear other roomers laughing and talking in their large house. Some of their doors were open too, so he knew he and the woman were not alone. The woman still had him by the neck in the middle of her room. She said, "What is your name?" "Roger," answered the boy. "Then, Roger, you go to that sink and wash your face," said the woman, whereupon she turned him loose. At last. Roger looked at the door, looked at the woman, looked at the door, and went to the sink. "Let that water run until it gets warm," she said. "Here's a clean towel." "You gonna take me to jail?" asked the boy, bending over the sink. "Not with that face, I would not take you anywhere," said the woman. "Here I am trying to get home to cook me a bite to eat, and you snatch my pocketbook." Maybe you ain't been to your supper either, late as it be. Have you? There's nobody home at my house, said the boy. Then we'll eat, said the woman. I believe you're hungry, or been hungry, to try to snatch my pocketbook. I wanted a pair of blue suede shoes, said the boy. Well, you didn't have to snatch my pocketbook to get some suede shoes, said Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones. You could have asked me. Ma'am? The water dripping from his face, the boy looked at her. There was a long pause, a very long pause. After he had dried his face, and not knowing what else to do, dried it again, the boy turned around, wondering what next. The door was open. He could make a dash for it down the hall. He could run, 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 run. The woman was sitting on the daybed. After a while she said, I were young once, and I wanted things I could not get. There was a long pause. The boy's mouth opened. Then he frowned, but not knowing he frowned. The woman said, Uh-huh. You thought I was going to say but, didn't you? You thought I was going to say, but I didn't snatch people's pocketbooks. Well, I wasn't going to say that. Pause. Silence. I have done things too, which I would not tell you, son. Neither tell God, if he didn't already know. So you sit down while I fix us something to eat. You might run that comb through your hair so you will look presentable. In another corner of the room, behind a screen, was a gas plate and an ice box. A gas plate was like a hot plate used for cooking instead of a whole stovetop, and an ice box is a fridge. Mrs. Jones got up and went behind the screen. The woman did not watch the boy to see if he was going to run now, nor did she watch her purse, which she left behind her on the daybed. But the boy took care to sit on the far side of the room where he thought she could easily see him out of the corner of her eye, if she wanted to. He did not trust the woman not to trust him, and he did not want to be mistrusted now. Do you need somebody to go to the store? Asked the boy. Maybe to get some milk or something? Don't believe I do, said the woman, unless you just want sweet milk yourself. I was going to make cocoa out of that canned milk I got here. That will be fine, said the boy. She heated some lima beans and ham she had in the icebox, made the cocoa, and set the table. The woman did not ask the boy anything about where he lived, or his folks, or anything else that would embarrass him. Instead, as they ate, she told him about her job in a hotel beauty shop that stayed open late, what the work was like, and how all kinds of women came in and out, blondes, redheads, and Spanish. Then she cut him a half of her 10-cent cake. Eat some more, son, she said. When they were finished eating, she got up and said, Now, here, take this $10 and buy yourself some blue suede shoes. And next time, do not make the mistake of latching onto my pocketbook, nor nobody else's. Because shoes come by devilish like that will burn your feet. I gotta get my rest now, but I wish you would behave yourself, son, from here on in. She led him down the hall to the front door and opened it. Good night. Behave yourself, boy, she said, looking into the street. The boy wanted to say something other than, Thank you, ma'am, to Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones. But although his lips moved, he couldn't even say that as he turned at the foot of the barren stoop and looked up at the large woman in the door. He barely managed to say thank you before she shut the door, and he never saw her again. Now that you guys have heard the passage, you're going to go to our PowerSchool class page, click the link here for our guiding questions, and answer them. Have this done by Tuesday so that you're on track to finish for the week. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, dojo me, message me through Unified Classroom, email me, any of those things. You guys will see me and hear from me again on Wednesday, and we will have Zoom class on Thursday. Bye.